Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and welcome to week 4 of...
The Summer of Hellraiser!
After Hellraiser 3 finished off all the backstory that Clive wrote for this series as far back as the original movie, it would take Miramax quite a while before they greenlit another sequel in the still profitable franchise. Titled Hellraiser Bloodline because Hollywood hates the number 4, this movie would be the last of the Hellraiser franchise to receive a theatrical release. The twist this time is that the story takes place over several hundred years, following the descendants of the man who created the puzzle box in the first place. Because of this, Pinhead, iconic to the series as he is, while he did appear in this movie, he was not supposed to appear until much later, and the studio didn't like that very much. They didn't care that the human that would become Pinhead wasn't even born yet when the story starts. They wanted Pinhead, and they wanted him somewhere within the first 5 minutes. That went quite against the desires of Kevin Yeager, whom was directing this movie, and had the character slated to appear somewhere around 40 minutes. However, when the studio went ahead and started deleting scenes already finished to reshoot and re-edit the movie the way they wanted behind Yeager's back, the director walked out of the film, leaving them to hire another quick enough to finish the remaining scenes and give the film the flow they felt would work better. Which brings us to the big question: who knows better how a movie's direction should go? A director? Or random faceless studio Cenobites? Let's take a look at Hellraiser Bloodline and see for ourselves. Our story opens with... well, they weren't fucking around. Not even the opening credits got in the way of that. Following the opening credits, again as the all-exciting plain white text on black background, the story opens... in space! In outer fucking space? So I guess the studio is downright bragging that they've run out of ideas and money, as this is a clearly low-budget space station. Here we meet Bruce Ramsey, who plays Dr. Paul Merchant, showing us that even in the story budgets are tight, as he evidently is the only staff member around in this entire space station. Looks like a weird mix between the Terminator and Johnny 5. Either that or in WALL-E 2 he stops fucking around. Using the 2127 equivalent of the Power Glove, Dr. Merchant solves the Lament configuration while being disconnected enough to avoid its unpleasant side effects. Ah, smart move, tricking the demons with a decoy. Kinda reminds me of Sabbath mode on certain ovens, where it takes a few seconds between turning the knob and the oven actually kicking on. Because obviously, that's more than enough to fool an omnipotent god. Solving the configuration, of course, summons Pinhead, so the studio got its wish in the character appearing much quicker than the director wanted. For the second time. Well, this is post-credits, at least. Despite this looking like the climax of the film, that doesn't mean anything necessarily happens, as Merchant is interrupted by the Space Marine Riot Police. The third act is therefore postponed, so we can have a fuck ton of exposition thrown in our faces.
We have the company's most productive space station hijacked and taken out of orbit by the man who built it. Evaluation.
Wacko.
Great man didn't live up to your expectations, did he?
Where's your crew?
I made them leave. They're headed for Earth. Look, time is of the essence.
You know, it might be a little easier to take in if it was, I don't know, over the course of 90 minutes building up to this point? Just a thought? To focus the story, Christine, who plays the only female Space Marine on this mission, Rimmer? That can't be right.
What's your name?
Rimmer.
Damn it, creepy! Anyway, she interrogates Merchant, allowing the film to frame itself as a story told by Merchant, despite the fact that it contains countless details that he has no way of possibly knowing.
Centuries ago, a man, an ancestor of mine, Philippe le Marchand, built a puzzle box.
And for convenience's sake, Philippe is played by the same actor.
Is it done?
Done.
Is it wonderful?
Wonderful.
Look, it's a square. 3 by 3 on a 3 by 3 grid, and you fill in the numbers. I've invented Sudoku, bitch! Philippe gives his wife a demonstration, and then it turns out she is completely unimpressed with his masterwork, which makes sense if she was expecting a horde of Cenobites to appear, like the audience was. Rubbed the wrong way by this, Philippe prepares to leave so he can deliver the puzzle box in person to the nobleman who commissioned it. Philippe's wife, however, tries to tempt him to stay with sexy time, and the fact that he's already knocked her up. A pregnant woman in a horror movie. Normally that would be a red flag that she's probably going to die, or at least the kid is, except, of course, for the fact that this story is being told by Merchant's offspring, which kinda spoils the fact that she is definitely going to live. Forget about that spoiler, though. It's time to finally get the body count rolling. We cut to the house of the nobleman that commissioned Philippe to make the puzzle box, Duc de Lille, played by Mickey Cottrell. Lille is throwing a feast for a random peasant girl for some reason, played by Valentina Vargas.
No home, no family. Not even christened, I understand.
It's almost as if someone could murder you and no one would care. Jacques, the Duke's assistant, played by Adam Scott, shows the peasant girl to her seat so that the S&M games can begin. She's been there for a while now. How did she not notice that was already there? Or smell how rotten everything is? Grapes aren't that good.
She has spirit, splendid.
Well, not anymore she doesn't. Shortly after they asphyxiate their guest, Philippe arrives to deliver the puzzle box, which the Duke pays for happily, sending him on his way. Of course, this is a horror movie, so fuck logic. Let's just have Merchant hang around for no reason other than to look through the windows and catch the Duke prepare the peasant girl for a dark ritual of dark magical darkness. It's too bad Pinhead isn't around yet. He's way more efficient when it comes to skinning his victims. The Duke needs this skin as a suit to contain a summoned demon from the Cenobite dimension, which he christens as Angelique.
A summoned demon is yours to command.
Unless you stand in Hell's way.
So you have a slave and you have to do what it says. Wait, how the hell does that work? We suddenly teleport through space and time so that Merchant can discuss what he saw with a random mortician, Auguste Delamore, played by Louis Torren. He's here to chop up a few dead bodies for gore factor and state the obvious.
You've designed a machine that you fear can bring forth demons.
Yes.
Then design a machine that can destroy them.
Of course, if his antics after getting paid for the delivery are anything to go by, just because something is the obvious thing to do, that doesn't mean he's gonna fucking do it. Instead, we end up back in space again.
And his only hope was to steal the box.
No, it wasn't! This is almost as bad as that reporter who couldn't understand the difference between a lament configuration and a studio apartment. Instead of taking Lemuer's advice, Philippe goes back to the Duke's mansion to try and steal the puzzle box, like an idiot. While there, he finds the Duke seemingly murdered, the walls splattered with blood, and Jacques and Angelique having sexy naked time of their own. Oh, what a guy, still on time for his obligatory jump scare, even post-mortem! Sexy time interrupted, Angelique's clothes magically materialize back on her so she can distract Merchant long enough for Jacques to knock him out cold. Not to mention untie himself and get dressed in all of 4 seconds. At this point, I'm imagining Space Merchant telling Rimmer all this and her rolling her eyes all the time. Still, he doesn't finish him off, ordering the demoness to do the deed. She's evidently not very good at that whole killing thing, leaving him alive enough to say goodbye to his wife, who just so happened to break into the mansion after him.
Save yourself. Save the child.
So, even when she's the one who stays alive and flees to America, he still gets to take credit for the idea. The movie jumps hundreds of years into the future to remind us how the woman couldn't possibly have died, considering it's her descendant telling the story, right before we get a random message from Angelique.
I know what's in your heart.
This is quite possibly the worst idea for a Valentine's card I've ever seen. No bother, let's do the time warp again, winding up in the 90s, so we can meet another merchant, John, again played by Bruce Ramsey.
You know I've been having these dreams all my life.
John, honey, they're getting worse.
She used to only punch you in the mouth a couple times. Yeah, well, I still think this is an improvement over the circumcision dreams. We establish he has a wife who thinks this is all superstitious horse shit, and a kid who, yet again, we know enough already to realize is guaranteed to survive this ordeal. Point is, he's an architect, and there's a big banquet that he's really unsure about.
I'm not sure if it will work.
Right. So that's why your face is on this magazine cover.
Has she been sitting there with that the whole time, just waiting to unleash that zinger? The cover made it all the way over to Paris, because we all know that everyone in France obsesses over the architecture of New York on a daily basis. This means that the demoness Angelique catches wind of the surviving merchant bloodline, and somehow Jacques is still alive. Okay, she's a demon, I can understand her still kicking around after 212 years, but Jacques is just human, and he looks pretty damn good for his age. Oh, it's so after 2 centuries, he can be conveniently senile and forget about that rule to not stand in Hell's way, allowing Angelique to murder him so she can go to America. Because after all, if we don't see her kill him, how else are we going to explain the absence of the 230-year-old guy from the movie? As it turns out, John Merchant happens to be the guy who built the Lament configuration office building, combining cubicles with hell. What a forward-thinking man. Hey, wait a minute. That means that when Joey put the box into the foundation cement of the building in the last movie, that it was just coincidence? Right? We've already established that there is something else influencing this man's creativity, so... But who would happen to show up at this surprisingly sparse banquet but Angelique, ruining John's already shitty speech, but not following him as she leaves, because that would be rude. Instead, she finds a random guy to seduce and bring down to the basement level for some alone time.
Close your eyes. Trust me.
I just want to slip into something comfortable. The fucking wall! It turns out that when Joey put the configuration into the foundation in the last movie, it somehow teleported into a pillar between films. She-Hulk then instantly convinces her pudgy date to solve the puzzle as a means to summon Cenobites to her aid.
Things seem to have changed.
Hell is more ordered since your time, Princess.
This jump cut continuity error brought to you by the studio deciding to completely remove the clown Cenobites from the first act of the film. I'll let you decide for yourself whether or not that's a plus. She gives Pinhead the rundown of the plot, that Merchant's bloodline has survived and may try to destroy them, because, fuck it, it's a movie. With that in mind, she goes to visit John Merchant, whom immediately recognizes her as the woman of his dreams. The dreams where he gets his internal organs forcibly removed by hand, but dreams nonetheless. As he is working on a top-secret project that no one has seen but him, and she is clearly important to the plot, he shows it to her anyway, just like that. It happens to be the Elysium configuration, which, in theory, can produce an infinite reflection of light, but it's not quite ready yet, so she lets him know she's the woman from his dreams, and leaves it at that. And this is a good thing. How? Well, that's an improvement, I guess. But it's been far too long since we've killed someone, so let's suddenly jump to the oh-so-interesting lives of Security Guard 1 and Security Guard 2. Yes, that's how they are credited. Played by brothers David and Jimmy Skook.
From now on, we stick together. Always together. Right.
Wait a minute. Don't tell me. Of course. So, new Cenobite. The twin Cenobite. Or double Cenobite, maybe. Now I'm starting to wonder if this is the result of a proposed business agreement between Miramax and Doublemint Gum. If you think anyone might just so happen to give a fuck about these two, don't worry. We forget they exist immediately, so we can go to the culmination of this act in the movie.
Just tell me what you want!
Oh, I want bait. Live bait.
Okay, just one question real quick. I mean, the portal was in the office building, and not his home, so how did he get there? Did he take the bus? What did he use to pay the fare? There's a lot of unanswered questions right here. Might not be as important as I think, as, in comparison, Merchant rushes in with no explanation whatsoever as to how the hell he knew anything was amiss. Seriously, there was a short clip of him at the office building getting weirdly comfortable with Angelique, and then he just rushes in after Pinhead after this kid's taken with no explanation of how the hell we got from point A to point B. But there is a clue that they are at the office building he was just at a second ago. So he rushes back! Before he makes it, though, we get a decent look at the other new Cenobite for this film. A dog Cenobite. Are they even trying anymore? And how in the fuck did a dog solve the lament configuration? I know the thing isn't exactly hard, but the motherfucker doesn't even have thumbs! Nevertheless, John is here to save the day. Or piss his pants.
For God's sake. Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Okay, that line was pretty awesome. Pinhead explains that the box opens a door to hell, and John's new invention, if modified slightly, can do just the same on a much grander scale. So help him destroy the world, or his kid will be tortured forever. Which is the same thing that's going to happen to all of them if he does help him, so maybe he shouldn't have gotten into quite so many details with his plans just yet. In any case, they easily escape long enough to split up, and then John returns to the Cenobite so they can face off once and for all.
I shall go first.
In a supernatural epic rap battle. Daddy! That was pathetic, Pinhead. He runs off right into Angelique, who happens to have his convenient plot device of a son. When she turns eviler to him and tells him to do exactly what Pinhead told him to, he complies. Ah, the power of boobs. So it's on, and John easily gets his son to run away from the demonic hell beasts with no real difficulty. He, on the other hand... yeah, he's been better. Pinhead uses the convenient lament configuration to drag Angelique into the spinning light thingy, which causes everything to explode. Okay. Therefore, it's Back to the Future, so Sci-Fi Merchant can tell Rimmer about the opening of this movie, which we already saw.
Consider yourself relieved.
Not now! I let them out!
Oh, come on, you do realize she knows this part, don't you?
I don't believe in hell.
But it believes in you, and it's out there right now.
Even by the 22nd century, you still haven't learned that line doesn't work?
There's something in this station right now that wants our souls.
Oh, Google's still around. At the end of it all, they still don't give a fuck, making the entire concept of him telling the movie as a story completely pointless plot-wise. This just so that the Riot Police Space Marines can release the Cenobites and get the body count rolling yet again. Over a century into the future, and yet still, the only black guy on set dies first. There's really not much to say about this act of the movie, honestly. People go around very poorly done sci-fi sets to meet their demise at the hands of their own stupidity, with only slight help from the Cenobites. I mean, we see Angelique and Doublemint again, but honestly they offer the same plot relevance as the dog. Nothing. It all comes down to Merchant and Pinhead, in what will surely be an epic battle of unearthly proportions when... Damn. No, that's bad when even the villain wonders where the fuck the climax just went. Oh, it was a hologram, silly goose. This means Merchant can escape with Rimmer while revealing to Pinhead that the entire space station was in fact the Elysium configuration, now perfected with the power of science, capable of destroying Pinhead, the Cenobites, and the puzzle box once and for all, while Merchant escapes into space with his female prize, Rimmer. Even though in all of the director's original drafts he was supposed to die in the station along with Pinhead. But if they did that, then the studio couldn't have him run off with Rimmer as his female prize at the end of the movie. I guess may as well, she did fuck all else for the rest of the film. Anyway, that was Hellraiser Bloodline. Yeah. As far as Hellraiser movies go, this was certainly an oddball in the bunch, but when it comes to cinema in general, this movie just felt all over the place. Partly because we start off in a space station and then teleport to 18th century France, but honestly, that's the least of this movie's problems. First and foremost, while the story taking place across 3 distinct time periods is an interesting twist, it looks like the budget couldn't keep up with the aspirations. The scenes set in the past look really good, I must admit, and the present looks very simple but unquestioningly lower budget in comparison. However, the shit hits the fan when the movie goes sci-fi, with terrible lighting that is obviously just trying to hide the painfully low-quality sets at work. Allegedly, the original plan was to have the movie actually start in the past and flow naturally towards the future. Rumor has it that every aspect was also explained, but that doesn't change the fact that in the final product, characters show up here and there seemingly at random, trying to keep the plot going while hoping the audience doesn't notice the holes appearing everywhere. At the end of the day, Hellraiser Bloodline was an ambitious project that at its heart had the potential to be a very original and maybe even good movie, but the loss of the director culminated in the loss of direction, and that combined with a very strained and unbalanced budget causes this movie to land at 2 climax-avoiding holograms out of 5. And that's the end of the theatrical releases of Hellraiser. But, of course, that's not the end of the Hellraiser series, and next week, we're going straight to video. Thank you all for watching, I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, it's a movie series about going to hell. Arguably, they're doing a good job.
Mr. Chamberlain?
Where the fuck planet are you from?